Hello students and welcome to the e-learning program initiated by Shri Gyan Mantri Vidyapit for the students of Standard 10, in which we are learning the subject of social science. Students, we are in the process of quick revision in which we have completed a lot many chapters and understood the marks weightage and understood the approach with which we have to start the chapter and uh, how to complete that chapter with all the marks weightage so that we concentrate our studies and we focus our studies on particular questions only according to the marks weightage given by the board. In that process, today we are going to start the revision for two chapters together, that is chapter number 5 and chapter number 6. Now, as far as chapter number 5 is considered, it's a very important chapter in the history part. That is, what we are learning is the heritage of India. In that, chapter number 5 deals with the Indian science and heritage, Indian heritage of science and technology. Now, since a long time, from the history section, chapter number 5 has the weightage for long answers. So, out of all the chapters, chapter number 1 to chapter number 7, only chapter number 5 has always the weightage of 5 marks. Earlier exams, nowadays 4 marks. This year also, along with this COVID situation, marks weightage have been bifurcated, but still, chapter number 5 remains where uh, the last section, section D, the long essay type questions. One question will be certainly asked from chapter number 5. So we have a very good advantage over here. First thing is the chapter is quite small. It's not that big, right? And there are 4 main questions that has the weightage of 4 marks. So our learning is also quite less and we can easily score. Now let's see the, so on the top of the chapter, the material, you should have written this. Chapter number 5, it has 1 mark. It has one objective, that is 1 mark. Then no 2 mark question. 2 mark question is not there. 3 mark question is not there. Straight away 4 mark questions. One is compulsory. Yes, one is compulsory. A long essay type question is always asked from this chapter. Plus, this year we have an added advantage as one additional question will be asked. So here we have total 1 compulsory plus 1, making the total of 8. So as usual, we have 5 marks weightage from compulsory. That means 1 question compulsory of 4 mark will be asked and 1 objective will be asked from this. Now when we are preparing the chapter, the objective will almost already be studied along with the question answers. So that's not a problem. But here we are getting an advantage of 4 marks extra. So if we, it is a very small chapter, and if we learn properly, we can easily score 9 marks out of this. Now let us go ahead with the chapter so that we understand the main focal points on which we need to focus. Now, as objectives are also going to be asked, so we need to revise the chapter completely because 1 mark objective is asked, right? So we need to, now all the objectives which are included in the 4 mark question, when we are learning that 4 mark question by heart, the longest, and at that time that objective are already included in it. So whatever is remaining from there, we try to pick out the objective. So in that process, chapter number 5, India's heritage of science and technology, the very first question, that is, science and technology has made the world a small place. Why? Because the discoveries and invention in the field of science and technology, they have brought the countries of the world together. Cooperation among the nations has increased, hence new attitude has been developed. Countries have become oriented towards peaceful coexistence. Yes, if we make war, then automatically our finances, our country, lots of destruction happen, and that is not called progress, right? Wars are inevitable, but people have learned after all this time that wars are not necessary, right? So wars on big scale, they are avoided, and thus the peaceful process has lots of, can show lots of development. India has scientific attitude along with religious outlook. Now, India is considered quite religious-minded people. Mentality is quite religious, etc. But we have proved in the field of science and technology that along with the religious outlook that we also have a scientific attitude, right? The great sages of ancient India, they have gifted invariable heritage of science to the world. They have made outstanding contribution in not one field, two field, but in a number of fields like metallurgy, chemistry, medicinal science, surgery, mathematics, astronomy, astrology, vastu shastra, and physics. Now, basically these are the faculties or the subjects on which we are going to learn in this chapter. Most of them, they are 3 mark, 4 mark question, right? Uh, that we not only have contributed in the fields of literature, art, religion, education, and philosophy, but we have made immense contribution in the field of science and technology also. Modern researchers, they have proved that India has scientific attitude along with the this is either 2 mark question which is not to be prepared, but we can always get some one-liner or true or false or match the following from here. Now, meaning of science and technology. This is a one-liner. What is the meaning of science? What is the meaning of technology? So you should be knowing this one properly. Or it can be a true or false also, right? Or it can be a one-liner. Fill in the blanks also. So that way, this particular question, meaning of science and technology, is very important, and you got to learn it properly. Science means systematic knowledge of technology, means practical utility of systematic knowledge. What is the meaning of science? Science means a systematic knowledge. First we learn it, then we discover something, some truth in it, then we go ahead. So it is a systematic development or systematic knowledge. And technology means the practical utility of systematic knowledge. We observed a lot of things in science. When we put that into practice or in practical about it, right? So we know that electricity, it was there, yes, but we discovered it, right? And then we made the use of that discovery, then that is science, right? So knowledge, systematic knowledge is science, but the practical utility of that systematic knowledge or science, that is known as technology. Although science and technology, both these words are different, but both of them have always spoken together. Yes, they are linked with each other. Now, metallurgy. Metallurgy is a 3 mark question, right? 2 or 3 mark question. But some important things are over here, right? People of India have been making use of metallurgy. Oh, okay, that is okay. Now, we are trying to find objectives because this is a very small question. It is not a full 4 mark question. So we just need to concentrate upon the objectives that can be picked up over here. Proof of is this. First thing is to be underlined is metallic idol of female dancer discovered from Indus Valley civilization. This is the first one. It is made out of metal. So the very first proof that metallurgy was well known 5000 years ago in the Indus Valley civilization is the finding of the metallic idol of the dancing girl, female dancer. Metal statues of Buddha. This is the second evidence. So this is important for objective. Metal statues of Buddha belonging to the Kushan period were found at, you got to remember 3 things: metal statue, Buddha, Kushan period, Takshashila, which further proves excellence in metal works. This is objective. Next, this is the third objective. Idols were made in South India during the Chola period. The finest example is the metal statue of Nataraja, which has become world famous. So, Nataraja, South India, Chola dynasty, right? At present, this statue, where is it? That is also MCQ. What is that? It's preserved in the Museum of Chennai, at Chennai. That same museum, this is a very important MCQ, right? Or Lord Rama the Archer. This is the only reference that we have in this book regarding Lord Rama the Archer, that statue. It is in that same museum of Chennai. The ancient metallic artistic statues of gods, goddesses, this is common. Through ages, people have been making statues of lots of things, right? Including gods, goddesses, people, human beings, animals, birds, all that. So, all those metal statues have been found. जो beetle nut cutter, that is जो सुपारी काटने वाला जो cutter होता है, that's called beetle nut cutter. The artistic design is over there because it is a fulcrum. Now we come to chemical lore, or it has also another name, alchemical lore. Now, chemical is a complete 4-mark question. It's quite lengthy and we need to learn it from the first point to the last point, yes, without any point missing, because there are few points, and if we write all these few points that are there, then only we are going to get a complete 4-mark, right? So chemistry, another name is alchemical, or it is also known as experimental science, right? So this is MCQ again. So when we are learning 4-mark, automatically that we learn together. Chemistry helps in studying various, what are they? Minerals, plants, seeds for agriculture, making various metals and understanding their properties. Chemicals is also used in making medicines. Now, this is a very important figure in chemistry, Acharya Nagarjuna. His contribution in chemistry. Acharya Nagarjuna, he was a learned Buddhist person of Nalanda University, and he is known as pioneer of chemistry. He was the one who started the use of chemistry and the discoveries of chemistry in India. He suggested that people, along with Ayurveda, should also use chemicals, that is allopathy, right, for curing diseases. It is believed that Acharya Nagarjuna, who first introduced the mercury, the use of the ash of mercury, right? He is the first person in India, and he has initiated, first introduced the use of the ash of mercury in medicine. He wrote books, namely, this is very important, Ras Ratnakar and Arogya Manjari. These are the two books written by him. Ras Ratnakar, what does it contain? That also you have to mention. He has mentioned about main juices, the rasa, maharas, 42, uprasa, 42 uprasas, sorry, maharasa, there are 42 uprasa, and 10 types of poison he has mentioned in which book? Rasaratnakar. And various types of salts and ash of minerals that are all found in chemistry. So he was considered as the guru, acharya of chemistry, and these are all his findings, and he has included that in his book called Rasaratnakar. Nagarjuna, now, he was a very famous personality, a very learned figure, right? And you can call him a scientist of the ancient times of related to the field of chemistry. Now, he was also the head of Nalanda University, which we have learned in chapter number 4. So that Nalanda University, where he had set up a school of chemistry, and he also had a furnace, so that the students can come from all over, teachers can come from all over the India, all the world, right? And they can do all their discoveries over there. They can carry on their research over there for research purpose. Excellence in field of chemistry in sculptures and pillars. Now you start giving examples. What are the copper statue of Buddha discovered from Sultanganj in Bhagalpur district of Bihar? That's an example, excellent example that we know quite a lot of knowledge of chemistry and metallurgy both put together. This statue, it is 7.5 feet and it weighs 1 ton. Yes, that is 1000 kg. Similar statue of Buddha at Nalanda, that is also 18 feet high. All of these are copper statues, right? Metal statues. One of the finest example of all is the Vijay's Thumb, which is 24 feet high iron pillar which weighs 7 tons. It was built by Chandragupta II. Yes, and what is the achievement? Such was of the creation and hold on chemistry and metallurgy that even after hundreds of years, the pillar has not eroded. That is the plus point of that pillar. So we got to mention that. Now we have medical literature. Now, please understand what is this. Medical literature is one thing, and medicine and surgery, this that is another thing. Yes, literature में आपको सारी books किसने लिखा और उस books में क्या है, that you got to explain. But if both of them are clubbed together, yes, the knowledge of medicine and medicinal surgery, then medicines and surgery, then that is quite a long question, but whatever it is, we have to write it, right? Now, first, let us discuss about medicinal science. Whole of the question regarding medicine and science, surgery, whole of that question put together is a 4-mark question. Now, when we are learning 4-mark question, automatically the objectives, who has written the book, what is included in that book, what he has said. So, whatever type of objective, medical, say, match the following, fill in the blanks, whatever is asked, all of that goes together. Now, medical literature. Three names are to be remembered on a permanent basis: Maharishi Charak, Maharishi Shushruta, and Maharishi Vagbata. All the three, they are revered, quite respected names in the field of medicine and science, were the pioneers of ancient India's medical and herbal science and also surgery. So three, four things are there: medical bhi hai, herbal bhi hai, and surgery bhi hai. These people did extensive research on their own and they reached great heights. Now we explain who is which personality, what has he written, and what are the different findings by that person. First, we write about Maharshi Charak. He wrote a book. Maharshi Charak wrote Charak Samhita, quite easy to remember, which he has mentioned 2000 medicinal herbs. Now Maharshi Shushruta, he has written the book called Shushruta Samhita. So it's also very quite easy to remember that, in which he has mentioned instruments in surgery. Now remember in this way: Maharshi Charak Samhita, 2000 medicinal herbs. Maharshi Shushruta Samhita, instruments used in surgery. The instruments were so sharp that they can split one single strand of hair in two parts vertically. Now, Vagbata, he has written, Mahashira Vagbata, he has written the book called Vagbata Samhita. Today, all these books for any medicinal student, any medical student, this medical and surgery, these three books are considered as standard. Even today, they are as much helpful as in ancient times. Vagbata also called. Now, Vagbata has written another book also, which is called Ashtang Hriday, which is an excellent book for diagnosis. Right? You see some symptoms, and you should be accurately be able to diagnose which diseases is there and which cure to be done for that disease. So that's a quite a really a very good book written by Vagbata, where he explains everything about diagnosis. The knowledge about medicine and surgery possessed by ancient India about medicine. Now we come to medicine and surgery. Now, ancient Hindu cultures, herbal science, we know it as Ayurveda. It is enriched with a huge collection of minerals, medicinal herbs that can be made from plants and animals. Our ancient literature on these sciences explain in detail all the complicated process of making the medicine, where to find the herb, how to make it, what are the different parts of the herb to be used, classifying them, and in their usage and proper way. They could recognize symptoms. That means these people were so learned, and their extensive research allowed them to diagnose the symptoms and the disease so that they are able to cure it. Based on this, they used to provide Ayurveda medicines. They also had the knowledge about ideal diet pre when the when the symptoms are recognized and the diagnosis is done. Right from that time, the disease is cured. Post disease curing, post recovery, what diet should be taken, they were quite an expert on that also. Now we come to surgery. That's ancient doctors. Now you have to tell everything about surgery. The ancient doctors, they were so skilled to perform surgeries that they could stop the circulation blood, because when you have to operate, surgery means you got to operate, so you need to stop the circulation of the blood so that blood loss is not much. So they were so much expert that they could stop blood circulation using a special type of bowl shaped bandage. They could skillfully operate on lots and lots of diseases like abdomen, kidney, cataract, hernia, stone, piles, bladder, etc. These are the usual diseases seen in people during the when during the old age. For example, cataract, yes, and some people have stones, piles, etc. So these operations were done by them. They were expert enough to classify the whole of the structure of the skeletal structure of the human body and classify the bones. They could also join the broken bones. That means they could easily find out where the bone is broken and can mend it. Displace bones and extract things that means a foreign body, if it has got stuck in our body or eye, they were so skillful that they can remove it with precise tools and equipments. They were skilled in plastic surgery also. Some person got burnt over here, and this is the arm that is exposed. No, nobody likes to see that. So you take skin from somewhere else, paste it over here, and allow the skin to grow, and take part over there. So that, so that type of skin replantation, or you can say plastic surgery. They knew about that, and they are well aware of joining the nose, ears, because lots of people get cut during the wars, etc., or by accident. So they were quite expert surgeons. Ancient doctors, they had a deep interest in teaching students the method of surgery. They used to demonstrate surgery to students either on the dead bodies or on wax statues. Now, ancient veterinary science is not that long a question, but then some of the important name of the books are also given over here. Uh, which are they? Veterinary science, that means the animal disease, the doctors who treat the animals, they are called veterinary doctors. So in one of that, because lots of animals were used over there for war purpose or for domestic purpose, so lots of books have been written over there: horses, ashwa, elephants, that is Hasti. Among them Hasti Ayurvedic and Ashwa Shastra, they are quite well known. They both of them are written by Shalihotra. Now we come to the most important question of the chapter, that is mathematics. All the things complete in series that has to be explained. Yes, what are they? India has made quite notable, that is okay. Finest discovery, zero se start karna hai, zero decimal system, algebra, theory, Bodhayan, chemistry, sorry, geometry and arithmetic. Then Aryabhatta has discovered zero, whereas the knowledge of writing zero after the figures were discovered by Gutsumad. Now these are all very important objectives also that you have to remember. The ancient Indian mathematics gave the names of numbers formed by placing up to 53 zeros after 1. So if you put 10 after 1, then it makes 10. So 10 is a name जिसको हम 10 बोलते हैं, same with 10, 100, 1000, 10,000. So these are the names that are given. So up till 53 zeros after 1, we have particular names for that. Archaeologists, they found out from the sites of Indus Valley civilization and Harappa that they had precise measuring stones and measuring scales, right? Bhaskaracharya, he has written, this is important, and Lilavati Ganit, Bijganit in 1150 AD. He discovered the science of addition and subtraction that we use even today. Then Brahmagupta gave the knowledge about the types of equations in mathematics. Bodhayan gave another version of Pythagoras theorem. Got to remember these things. Around 800 BC, Apstamba, that is the scientist, mathematician, he wrote a book called Shilva Sutra, in which he gives the method of accurately calculating dimensions for constructing altars that need for sacrifices. These sacrificial pits, they were called Yagnavedis and are used for Vedic purposes. His book also contains analysis of several principles. Aryabhatta is known as the father of mathematics. He is now, we have to tell a lot about Aryabhatta. First thing is, he has written a book called Aryabhatyam. Second, he gave the approximate value of pi, which we use today as 3.14 or 22 by 7. He suggested that pi, it was he who suggested that pi that we say is the constant which works as multiplier in the equation of circumstances and diameter of a circle. He also gave information about Ashtang method of multiplication, addition, subtraction, square root, cube root. All these things are given by him, right? So that is why we call him father of mathematics. Aryabhatta also wrote books like Das Gitika and Aryabhatyam. So Aryabhatyam we already know he has written. Now Das Gitika also. In his book Arya Siddhanta, this is the third book. That means Das Gitika, Aryabhatyam, and this is Arya Siddhanta. He had described the principles of astronomy. He was not only a good mathematician, he was very good at astronomy also. He also found the solution of various fundamental arithmetic and geometry. Apart from this, now other scholars, which are they? Two of these scholars, Kachayan and Bhaskaracharya. These are the names that you should remember and who did what. Contribution of Aryabhatta. Whatever we learnt in Aryabhatta, this is a small one, 2 mark, 3 mark question, right? But you should know. Now, some things are marked over here, which is that Aryabhatta, we know him as father of mathematics. So, when India launched first satellite, it got named after Aryabhatta. He declared that the earth rotates around its own axis. This is one of the greatest find of the ancient India and true today also. He proved that the basic reason for lunar eclipse is the shadow of the earth. The Indian scholars used to call that shadow as Ajarpa. These are the important things. Now, this is very important for objectives. You have a list in your material, right? Which are the names of the books and who are the authors. You got to memorize them properly. Now, astronomy and astrology both clubbed together will become 4 marks. Yes, because separately it is hardly 2 marks, but combined together, astronomy and astrology. Right? What is astronomy? Astronomy is the most ancient science. Many works like Grantha related to astronomy have been written in India. Ancient universities of India did systematic and deep study of astronomy. Indian scholars studied planets. So, the observation or the learning of the planetary movements, all of that, that's called astronomy. Their movements, constellation, and other celestial objects in several mathematical calculations, that is called astronomy. Based on this calculation, they make remarkable progress in the fields of astronomy and astrology. Astrology is predicting the future based on astronomy. They also used to make several predictions by studying the movement of the planets, that is included. Aryabhatta is over here also because he has made remarkable contribution in the field of astronomy. As a result, India launched, that we already know. He also declared that Earth rotates on its basis plus that Ajarbar, that is the shadow of the Earth. Brahmagupta popularized, this is important, Brahmagupta has popularized the law of gravitation in his book called Brahma Siddhanta, which is very important for contribution in the field of astrology. Ancient universities, again, they did systematic and deep study of astronomy as well as astrology. Indian scholars studied planets and their movements, and based on that, they did lots of calculation. Based on this calculation, they made remarkable progress in astrology. They also used to make several predictions studying the movement of the planet. One of the guest now astronomer Varami here divided astrology into 3 sectors, namely Tantra, Hora, and Samhita. He has also written very important Brihad Samhita. This book gives clear information about aspects or the effects of planet on man's future, his characteristics, various classes of animals. All this is given in his book named Brihad Samhita. And auspicious moments for digging ponds or some auspicious activities or for development purpose, like marriage, digging ponds, well, making gardens, all those, we can make quite a lot of good prediction about the accurate timings. Vastu Shastra is one of the last one, right? Uh, it's quite important because Vastu Shastra means the science of architecture. Architecture, it is inseparable part. Wherever architecture is there, construction is there, Vastu Shastra is going to be. Well, India's knowledge and contribution is quite good, highly recognized and praised by many countries of the world. This is important. Brahma, Narad, Bruhaspati, Bhrigu, Vashishta and Vishwakarma. कितने नाम हुए? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They altogether have given lots of contribution to Vastu Shastra. On basis of principles of Vastu Shastra, they gave guidelines for constructing houses, temples, palaces, horse stable, forts, storehouses, ammunition, all of this. If it is done according to Vastu, certainly there will be some good influence on it. Varahamira has also discussed about Vastu Shastra in his book called Brihad Samhita, which we have learned. Later, now it got lost, right? In the meantime, then it was revived. Rana Kumbha of Mewar made several improvements during the 15th century and revived and gave new versions of Vastu Shastra and revived it. Vishwakarma is considered as the first architect of God. This is objective. He divided Vastu Shastra into 8 sections. This is also important. In these sections, he gives detailed description, information related to Vastu Shastra and for selection of location, shapes, and all those things. Planning of things, planning of temple, all that things. Yes, earlier Vastu Shastra was explained with religious perspective in the East. Nowadays, even the East has accepted that. West has accepted that with scientific perspective all across the world. Now, scientific heritage of ancient India, it's quite a long question. Whatever we studied in this chapter is included. Not all points are included, but it still makes, because all the faculties that we learn, starting from metallurgy, chemistry, medicine and science, mathematics, astrology, astronomy, Vastu Shastra, all few points we have to write, the main points. That tells us the complete contribution or the scientific heritage of ancient India, right? So the question is given to you in your material, and you can very well learn it by heart. It has to be learned. It carries lots of points and has it's a 4-mark question. Now we'll start with chapter number 6. Chapter number 6 has marks weightage. That is, it has 3 questions in objectives. That means 3 marks. It has 1 question in 3 marks. That is 3 marks. Yes. So it has a fix of no 4-mark question. There is no question of 4 mark, no question of 2 marks. So nil over here. 4 marks, no question is there. So it has a weightage of 6 marks. Now 3-mark question over here, plus 1 is there. So here it will make 3 mark plus 3 marks. So if we prepare this question properly, we will and score easily 9 marks. That is why we have clubbed chapter number 5 and chapter number 6. Where history is concerned, if just by preparing 2 chapters thoroughly, if we can get very well 18 marks, because we are getting 9 marks from chapter number 5 and we are getting 9 marks from chapter number 6. Both of these chapters, they are very easy, and we have to of course do lots of memory work, but then you have to memorize these things. And on top of that, these are not that much complicated answers where it becomes very difficult for you to memorize. Is quite easy memorizable questions are there in both these chapters. Yes, no. So 9 marks for chapter number 5 and 9 marks for chapter number 6. Chapter number 6 is places of Indian culture and heritage, right? And this chapter is quite interesting because you have lots and lots of good things to remember over here. Some of them are your favorites also, right? And we can easily write on this some places of that has importance is cultural heritage of India. Now cultural heritage, that is the opening question, right? India, lots of foreign visitors are attracted to visit the places of cultural and natural heritage of India. On top of that, lots of heritage sites has been declared as World Heritage Sites. So of course lots of foreign tourists are over here to see and have a look at those World Heritage Sites, of which not only India but whole of the world should be proud about, right? So we start with Ajanta caves. Now we have to remember that there is no 2-mark question. There is no 2-mark question and no 4-mark question. So there will be very small questions of 3 marks where at least you can have some 8-9 points to start with, or it can go up to 10 or 11 points, right? Hardly there are few questions which have quite a lot of length, and otherwise they are quite short, having half a line, 1 line, so you can easily remember them. Ajanta caves, if we look at the answer, it is a 3-mark question, right? Write a short note on the caves of Ajanta or Ajanta caves. Where are they? First is, where are they? Ajanta caves, they are situated near Ajanta village in Aurangabad. This is also objective. Please remember, we have 3 marks in objective. So where is which place, in which state, near which village? So all this is quite necessary. And when we are preparing 3-mark question, automatically the rest is already prepared. That means the objectives are already prepared when we prepare a question. So these caves are magnificent examples. What is it? Yes, so these caves are belonging to the Buddha art of Vastu, art of painting, sculpture. Next, Ajanta is among the finest example of the earliest Buddha architecture, cave painting, sculptures. These caves have basically 2 types of structure. One is Chaitya hall or shrines are dedicated to Lord Buddha, and the another one, now you can see the Chaitya over here. Another one is viharas or monasteries, that is used on. What is Chaitya and what is vihara? We already know that from previous chapters. Buddhist monks for meditation. Viharas, when the Buddhist monks, they go from one place to another. During that period, yes, in that transition period, they need to stay somewhere. They do need to do their prayers, offer their prayers, meditation, and that's called a vihara, where they can rest. Chaitya, the worshipping place, and study of Buddha teachings. Now, very important, cave number 9, 10, 19, 26, 29, they are all chaityas, whereas the remaining all the caves are viharas. Based on the work done in this cave, we can divide that into two. First one is caves on wall painting. Second one is sculpture, that is statues. Now, cave number 1, 2, 10, 16, and 17, they have excellent wall paintings. Rest of them, they are quite interested in sculptures. With time, people had forgotten about Ajanta caves. It was rediscovered. So that is important for objective 1819 AD by John Smith. He was a British officer who rediscovered these caves. Um, they are damaged at some place because of the human interference, and they are famous all over the world. So this is what you have to write. Now these are definitions. Yes, Chaityas, Stupas and Viharas. Yes, they can be asked as define the following, then 3 marks can be given for this. So this is a 3-mark question. Chaitya separate, Stupa separate, and Vihara. That is given over here. Next we come to Ellora. Ellora cave is again it's a 3-mark question. Ellora is one of the largest rock cut. Very important to remember that whole of the Ellora cave, it is a single large rock cut temple. Monastery temple complex is in the world. It is situated again Aurangabad in Maharashtra. This is the picture of it. There are, remember, objective 34 caves in Ellora constructed between 600 AD to 1000 AD. These caves are divided into 3 groups. Yes, of caves temple different from each other. What are they? The caves 1 to 12 they are Buddhist, 13 to 29 they are Hindu caves, and 30 to 34. So this is all objective. This is Jain caves. Hindu caves or Ellora, they were built by the Rashtrakuta dynasty. And what are these caves? These caves petrol rich and ancient Indian civilization. Ellora campus is not only an example of magnificent creation, but it's of the art, but also technology. The creation also tells us how patient the Indians were. We took 400 years, yes, to construct it. So quite a complex structure. It's quite massive also. Famous Kailash temple. Don't forget this. Kailash temple is one of the most beautifulest temple in that single rock cut temple, and it is situated in cave number 16 of Ellora cave. Now we have a little bit about the description of Kailash temple. Yes, cave number 16, the temple is, this is MCQ, 50-meter long, 33-meter wide, and 30-meter high. Temple is carved out of a single rock. It is adorned with beautiful doors, balconies, series of pillars. Beauty of this temple cannot be described in words. Now we come to Elephanta Caves. Elephanta Caves, it has hardly 4 to 5 points, so cannot be included in a 3-mark question, right? But you just go through the objectives that can be raised from this particular question. Now we come to the temples of South India and temples of Mahabalipuram. Mahabalipuram, it's a very short question, can be asked for 3 marks, 2 marks or 3 marks, because the number of points are quite good. So Mahabalipuram is a very small city located 60 kilometers from Chennai in Tamil Nadu. Mahabalipuram lies on the coastal area and it faces Bay of Bengal. This city is famous for splendid architecture and the seashores. Very important, Narasimhavarman first, he was the king of the Pallava dynasty and gave this time the name of Mahabalipuram. People gave the king the title of Mahamalla, which means a very great wrestler. 7 temples were built out over here, out of them 2 temples submerged in water. Today only 5 chariot temples. 5 chariot temples are made over here. We have learnt about it. The temples contain the amazing figure of Lord Vishnu in a smiling pose. Beside, there is also an idol of goddess Durga slaying Mahishasura. It is worth noting that Mahabalipuram is quite famous ancient harbor. Now we have Patadakal also in the south. Patadakal is situated 16 kilometers from Badaminagar in Karnataka. Patatakal is one of the capital of the Chalukya dynasty. Now, कौन सी dynasty है, कौन सा temple बनाया, कौन से state में बनाया, that is match the following, or and it's quite good for objectives also. So please go through it. Chalukyas built several temples over here in the Dravidian style of architecture. That's South Indian style. These were built Kab 7th to 8th century. Virupaksha temple, very important one, yes, is the biggest temple in Pattadakal. Now we come to Khajuraho temple. Khajuraho temple, 3 marks. These questions are small, but they have the weightage of 3 marks. Yes, the points may not be even 9 also. Somewhere it might end at 7, 8, but then also still they are all, because the points are quite thick. Khajuraho is a small village in Chhatarpur district, Madhya Pradesh. Contains world famous Khajuraho temples. Was the ancient capital. Which ruler? Chandala Rajputs of which area? Bundelkhand. These kings built the Khajuraho temple when between 905 to 1050 AD. That means approximately 150 years. During that period, all these temples were built. Today, there are 25 temples in Khajuraho. Most of these, they are Shiva, that is Shiva temples. Some of them are also Vaishnav and Jain temples. So you can find 3 over there. Hindu temples, Vaishnav temples, they are the same, right? Even Jain temples, they all have came out, but then different religions are. All these temples have similar type of architecture and sculpture. Okay, this is important. The famous Chauset Yogini temple is the main and the earliest temple built by the Chandalas. Chauset Yogini temple, it's very well known. The Toran, the arc of the temple, is best example of the decorative style of architecture. All the temples of Khajuraho were constructed with granite stone, right? So this is also objective. Khajuraho temples were constructed in which style? Nagar style. Atanak, it's magnificent. Next we have Sun Temple of Konark. Sun Temple of Konark, though quite not that long, but can be still asked for 2 or 3 marks. Yes. Now, the Sun Temple of Konark, situated in Konark in Puri district of Odisha, lies on Bay of Bengal. Temple was constructed 13th century during the reign of King. Again, very important, Narasimhavarman I of Narasimhavarman first of Pallava dynasty. Sun Temple is in the shape of a gigantic temple. The temple is dedicated to Sun Temple, Sun God. The structure of the Sun has been done with 12 pairs of carved stone wheels and is pulled by a set of 7 horses. 12 massive wheels, they provide beauty to the pedestal. 12 wheels, 12 months of the year. These wheels reflect 12 months, and each wheel has 8 spokes. That means which shows 8 prahar of the day. Yes, 1 prahar is 3 hours, so 8 3 is 24 hours. So the importance of the wheels, the importance of the spokes. The temple has been built using black stone, so it is also known as Black Pagoda, which is objective. The remains of this temple reflect quite a good civilization of the in Odisha during the 13th century. Now, very important, Brihadeshwar temple. It's now a Shiva temple located Thanjavur. It's in Tamil Nadu. It was built between 1003 AD and 1010, within 7 years, right? In Dravidian style of art. Why is this temple so important? Because it's built by King Rajaraja I of Chola dynasty, hence it is known as Rajarajeshwar temple, another name for Brihadeshwar temple. The temple is 500 feet high and 200 feet wide. It's spread in a west area and surrounded by a wall. This is the picture of that. Its summit is 200 feet high above the ground, so this temple attained the place in temples having high pinnacles. Owing to its huge size, grandeur, and architecture, this temple is excellent in terms of the architecture, art, science, all of that. It has secured a very important place among the good temples, best temples of South India. Now we come for this is just a list, yes, of all the temples that are made over there. These are some of the famous ones. Mahabalipuram, yes, where is it? Mahabalipuram, Tamil Nadu. Kailash temple, that is in Kanchipuram, that is in Tamil Nadu. Brihadeshwar temple, Thanjavur, Tamil Nadu. Virupaksha temple, that is Patarakal, that is Karnataka. Parsurameshwar temple, that is in Bhubaneswar, which is in Odisha. Vaikuta Perumal temple, that is in Kanchipuram, that is in Tamil Nadu. So please remember this. These are all very important objectives that we have to learn and go through. Then small ones, monuments. Hampi. Hampi is quite important. Yes, we just have to go through it, and this is hardly a 7-8 points mark, but still it can be asked in 3 marks. All of this 5 and 6 chapter, they are very important because short notes are there. Hampi is a village temple town situated near Hospet, that is in Bellary district, that is in Karnataka. Hampi lies on the bank of rich river Tungabhadra. This is the pic of that. Hampi was the capital city, which Vijayanagar kingdom. Rulers of Vijayanagar kingdom they were lovers of art, so they developed lots of different architecture over there. Out of that, the period of Krishna Dev Rai was considered. Yes, Krishna Dev Rai is a very well-known king, uh, considered to be the golden period of this art because art reached its maximum over here. The main feature of architectural style that in Vijayanagar was to carve out, I don't know why, but huge and magnificent pillars from stone. What was to be there? Pillars and columns were then artistically adorned with figures. What figures were carved out? Of figures of gods, goddesses, humans, animals, all the thing. Most important temples, they are Vithala temple, Hajira temples, were built in Hampi during the reigns of Raja Krishna Dev Rai. Besides Virupaksha temple, which are the other Achyutare temple of Lord Krishna, which is also one of the best examples of architecture over here. Now we come to Qutub Minar. Qutub Minar, we know it's quite a short one, but still 3 marks. Qutub Minar, it's a minaret in Qutub complex. It's a whole complex in that. Qutub Minar is one of the minaret. Qutub Minar was built in 12th century by Qutbuddin Aibak, but he died and he was not able to. Oh, he was the founder of the Ghulam dynasty. He was not able to complete the structure, so it was completed by somebody else. Who is that somebody else? After his death, the remaining work was completed by his son-in-law, that is Iltutmish. So Qutbuddin Aibak started it, and Iltutmish, his son-in-law, finished it. The minaret, what is the height? 72.5-meter tall skyscraper made out of round sandstone and marble. Now we have the circumference of the base and the circumference smaller one at the top. The base is 13.75 meter, and when we go up as in cylindrical form conical shape, it becomes 2.75 meter at the top. What is written on that? Verses of Quran have been engraved on the minaret, and it is the tallest standing structure of stone minaret in India. Now we come to Humayun's tomb. It's quite a small one, hardly 2 marks. So just remember who made them because this is important. Humayun's tomb, that is the Maqbara, that is the tomb of the Mughal Emperor Humayun in Delhi. It is one of the most finest example of the Mughal architecture. When Humayun died, his queen Hamida Begum, she built the tomb. The tomb is the made in the Iranian style and using red and white stone. Now we have Red Fort of Delhi. Red Fort of Delhi itself is a 3-mark question. Is built in 1638 by Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan, the fort is made out of red stone, and that is why it's called Red Fort. Because it's in Delhi, it's called Red Fort of Delhi. We have another Red Fort that is in Agra also. In this fort, Shah Jahan founded city. Inside that, he found the city called Shahjahanabad on his name. Red Fort include lots of different places. They are Diwan-e-Aam, Diwan-e-Khas, Rang Mahal, etc. All of that is within that Red Fort. Diwan Khas is magnificently decorated than other. It has quite a lot of valuable gold and silver and lots of precious stones embedded in it. There's a pic of it. Other important buildings that are in Red Square, Red Fort, which catches attraction are Rang Mahal, Mirror Palace, that is Aina Mahal of Mumtaz, Lahori Gate, Meena Bazaar, and Mughal Garden, etc. Shah Jahan also built a beautiful peacock throne over here himself. However, when Nadir Shah came into India and attacked India, looted India, he took it back to Iran. So one of the things to mention is the famous Peacock Throne. Red Fort, one of the finest buildings every year during National Festival, the red flag, our national flag is hoisted on the top of Red Fort. Now we come to Agra Fort. Yes, Agra Fort is hardly a 2-mark, 3-mark question, so we are not going to do that. It's quite short, and so we just remember the essentials that are required for objective point of view. Taj Mahal, a complete 3-mark question, and we have to write everything about it. Then we come to Fatehpur Sikri. Fatehpur Sikri is, you cannot say it is a 3-mark question, but then there are lots of important things that are to be included in Fatehpur Sikri, like when it was made, who made it, yes, and where it is situated, different monuments that are within Fatehpur Sikri. So we have to mention all of that. So if it is, it's very important from objective point of view, but as a 3-mark question, it doesn't qualify. Then cathedrals, again, it's quite a short one. Just remember the cathedrals. Just remember the essentials, that is, that can may be asked. For example, the famous one includes Basilica of Bom Jesus and Basilica of God Jesus, that's in Goa. These are the churches of Goa. It's quite short. Same way Chapaner is also quite short, right? Not a 2-mark question also, right? So you just remember some of the important things over there. It's not a 3-mark question. Then uh, Dhulavira is the next one. Yes, that is also 2-mark question. Some of the important points you got to note down over here. Then Lothal, Dholavira, if clubbed together, Dholavira and Lothal, if clubbed together, then it can be a 3-mark question. So better prepare it in that way. Then we have historical importance of Junagadh, that is hardly 1.5 point. So of course that also doesn't qualify as a 3-mark question. Architecture of Ahmedabad, lots and lots of things are there, so that does qualify as a 3-mark question, because lots of things have to be written over there, right? For example, consisting of Badr Fort, Jama Masjid, Mosque of Queen Cipri, Rosa of Sarkej, Khankariya Lake. It can be considered as the historical city in Gujarat, right? So lots of things are there to mention. Shaking Minarets, Julta Minara, Sidi Sayyid Jali Grill, Hachi Singh temples, then Mosque of Queen Cipri, Roopmati, all these places are there, right? You can write a little bit here and there, so you can extend the now Sidi Sayyid Nijar grill or Jali, that's quite famous. Vegetational geometrical minute carving, that is what it is, right? So you write about that. Then pattern cannot be asked for 3 marks, but uh, this question, places of cultural heritage of Gujarat. This is a complete 3-mark question. It's quite long, lengthy, and lots of things have to be. Whatever we studied in this chapter regarding Gujarat, we put it all that in this question. Very important question. Describe or write down about the places of cultural heritage of Gujarat. You start with Sahasraling Lake, Queen Rani Ki Vav, Rudra Mahalai. That is all in pattern, etc. Then Ahmedabad, everything about Ahmedabad, that is Queen Cipri, Rosa, we just discussed right now, right? Temples of RTC, everything that is available in now. Then historical archaeological sites, that is Lothal and Dholavira. About 2 points you can write about them. Whatever you find about Gujarat, all the historical places, right? Monuments, etc. You got to include this. This is a 3-mark question. So all in all, both these chapters, they are quite important from the point of view of scoring marks. You can easily score marks, yes, because 9 marks in one chapter, 9 marks in other, 18 marks out of 80. So approximately you can see uh, 8 to 16 plus 3 marks, you are scoring somewhere 20 to 22% over here from 80 marks paper. So very important for you to understand this and prepare these 2 very short chapters in such a way that you can easily score at least 15, 16, 17, 18 marks from this, which will be very helpful, yes, to score good out of 80 marks. Thanks, students.